We're going to look at the definition of force. So force is often described as something that pushes or pulls an object in a specific direction. And there's a few different types of force that we're going to look at. Obviously there's tons of different types out there, but we're going to look at specific 3 of them. So the first one we're going to look at is something called a normal force. And we use the symbol F with a little subscript N for normal force. So when 2 objects are in contact with each other, and the normal force is a force that prevents one object from taking the other's place. So for example, imagine that you're standing on the floor. So you and the floor are in contact with one another. The floor is exerting a force upon you, and then you are also exerting a force upon the floor, and that force is preventing you from falling through the floor. And that's what we call the normal force. So again, if you consider the force here, you have a force between the 2 objects that are just basically resisting that one's going to take the place of the other. We call that normal force. Tension force, and we denote that with the F with the subscript T. When an object is being pulled from opposite ends, we have tension force. So for example, if we have an object and we have a rope attached to it and we're pulling on that rope, this rope has actually tension force experiencing on it. So it's from a pulling sort of action. Would be tension. Compression force, again denoted F with a C. When an object is being pushed from the opposite ends, there is a compression force. So for example, a support column is experiencing compression from the weight above. So we have a weight, we have a support column, and we are experiencing a compression force. So the weight on above is compressing onto the column. So we call this a compression force. So again, they're all forces that are related to each other, right? Whether it's a push or pull, or whether it's just the normal force that stops objects from sort of merging together. Regardless, there is a formula that we use for force, and that formula is the following. So force, F, is equal to M times A, where M is actually the mass of whatever you're looking at in kilograms, and A is actually the acceleration of the object. And that's measured in meters per second squared. The force is actually measured in newtons, so that may or may not be a new unit that you've never seen before, but force is measured in newtons, denoted capital N. So this will be the formula, regardless of whether you're using normal force, or tension force, or compression force, we can always apply this formula. As usual, you don't have to memorize the formula. It is available on your resource sheet. So if you scroll to the end of your resource sheet, you do have force is equal to M times A, where again M is mass and A is acceleration.